Whenever there is an opportunity, probably the leader takes it up. And there's a herd sort of attitude towards it. Everybody else joins in it.
Absolutely. It's something in behavioral finance, we talk about the hero concept. The hero does something, therefore we're all going to follow it. And eventually the hero leads us to death, right?
And everybody joins in, ultimately that opportunity is lost.
Absolutely right. If everybody joins in, the opportunity is gone. That's exactly right. So following the leader is okay, as long as you know what you're doing. Right? If you blindly follow the leader, you're setting yourself up for potential failure. You won't necessarily fail, but you're setting yourself up for potential failure.
Just one point I'd like to make. So this point about follow the leader, and what you mentioned about market is continuously changing. So do you just keep following what's happening in the trend? So are we seeing that the follow the leader happens because individual banks, individual firms don't have a firm strategy and therefore it's easy to follow the leader? Or is it happening because it makes sense to follow the leader? I mean, just some comments and thoughts I thought, let me ask.
That's a very good question. And unfortunately, the leader is sometimes very good at marketing their strategy, very good at saying, whoa, look at our profits. Our profits are because we followed this strategy, yada, yada, yada. And we will talk about an example of that in Ireland this afternoon, where the leader took everybody down the wrong path. Leaders are you've got to take what they say with a grain of salt, because you can't see inside their firm, right? You can't see their capabilities, what they're really good at. They'll tell you what they think they're good at, but what they're really good at may be something else. Yesterday, I saw on the front page of the Mint, is it Mint is your technical thing? I saw that a sort of Q&A with the head of Standard Chartered. Yeah, and what's Standard Chartered doing? They were going to become a retail banker in India, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, if that's your strategy to be a retail banker in India, that's a hard strategy for an overseas bank to really pin its hopes on. They may succeed, right? But there was nothing in the interview that made me give me the warm feeling that they knew what they had to do to succeed. But everybody is now diving, oh my God, we've screwed up on commercial, now we're going to go retail. What makes you think that you are any better than anybody else in retail, right? You've got to prove that, right? You just don't assume because we're Standard Chartered or HSBC or Citigroup or other bank that we will automatically succeed. They don't, right? Follow the leader can be very, mind you, once you've decided not to follow the leader, the question is, what do you do next? That's a hard one. Sorry.
I had a question, and I maybe just taking it from what the early question was. There are a lot of trends, like one is retail banking trend, other is a digital strategy, other is online lending.
Yeah.
Then we have online interfaces for customers to do banking, NEFT, funds transfer, mobile apps. So these trends are awash everywhere, and typically one of the, like in a banking group, you will have one of the two top players actually doing that. So everyone tries to mimic it. My question is different. My question is, I mean, if it's a trend, does it not make sense to just follow the leader?
Well, we'll talk. We will get round to talking about that. We've got a little bit on a product later on. Not always. I mean, the list of firms that have failed have been dominated by leaders. I mean, Lehman Brothers, for example, was not a small chicken firm. It was a major firm, and then it went boom. So following the leader, if you know what you're doing and you understand what is the value that the leader is creating, is good. But just following the leader because of the leader is a recipe potentially for disaster. Now, I keep using the word potentially because nothing's guaranteed, right? It's only a potential leadership. And I will use the example of the Bank of Ireland later on as a follow my leader strategy that didn't work. It makes sense to understand what the leader's doing. It makes sense to understand why they're doing something. It makes sense to understand how that might apply to you. But to blindly follow the leader is really not very smart, I don't think. Unless you understand it's about risk management. Do we have the information that we need to be able to execute the strategy at least as well as the leader? Yeah? And if we don't have that information, the question is, how do we get that information? And then make a decision on it.